You'd think your college campus would be one of the safest places on earth. That's what I always thought, anyway. It feels like this protected little world where your biggest problems are homework and exams. You get used to it. You learn the shortcuts. You know which lights tend to flicker. You know where all the quiet spots are. It feels like your territory. You feel safe. But that feeling is an illusion. One night, after a late study session, a simple 10-minute walk back to my dorm became the most terrifying experience of my entire life. This is the story of that night. The story of how the place I felt the most at home twisted into something I didn't recognize at all, and how it changed my view of the world forever. It started out like any other night. It was a Tuesday in late October, deep into midterm season, and I'd been posted up in the main library since noon. The whole building was buzzing with that stressed-out energy of students cramming for exams. Finally, at 2 a.m, a tired voice came over the intercom announcing that the library was closing. There was this big, collective groan as everyone started packing up. I was exhausted. My brain was fried, and all I could think about was getting back to my bed. The walk from the library to my dorm was a path I had taken hundreds, if not thousands of times. I could have walked it with my eyes closed. Out the main doors, down the big steps, and onto the quad. At this hour, the campus was almost beautiful in how empty it was. The lawns were soaked in the orange glow from the lamps, and the old brick buildings were dark and silent. The air was cold and crisp, and I pulled my jacket tight around me. For the first couple of minutes, I wasn't totally alone. A few other students were shuffling out of the library with me, all of us like zombies heading back to our dorms. We were all on our own, but there was a weird comfort in knowing other people were out there. But then, one by one, they turned off down different paths until it was just me. My route was a shortcut. It went behind the science building and was a little darker than the main walkways, but it cut a few minutes off the trip. I'd never thought twice about taking it. Why would I? This was my campus. A place I paid to be. A place I paid to feel secure. The first sign of trouble was a sound. Not a voice, not a footstep. It was a rustling sound from the thick hedges that ran alongside the path. It was just a little too loud for a squirrel or a cat. I stopped and just listened, but there was nothing. Just the low hum of the campus and the wind. I told myself I was just being jumpy from being so tired, and I kept walking. That's when I saw him. About 100 yards up ahead, there was a figure. He was standing right under a lamppost, but the light was flickering, going from bright orange to almost completely dark, over and over. In the flashes of light, I couldn't see any details. Just a tall, dark shape. He wasn't moving. Not toward me, not away from me. He was just standing there. A cold feeling started to creep up my spine. It's that primal fear of being watched. Your logical brain tries to come up with explanations. Maybe he's another student. Maybe he's on the phone. But your instincts are screaming that something is wrong. I decided to cross to the other side of the path, just to put a little more space between us. I kept my head down, pretending I was completely calm and knew exactly where I was going. I didn't want to look scared. As I walked past where I'd heard the rustling in the bush, my heart was pounding. I risked a quick look back at the flickering lamppost. He was gone. Relief washed over me so fast I almost felt lightheaded. See, I told myself, it was nothing. You're just paranoid. I let out a long breath and started walking faster, just wanting to get back to my dorm. That's when I heard it. A single clear footstep on the pavement behind me. It landed in perfect time with my own, like a perfect echo. I froze. Every muscle in my body went tight. The quiet hum of the campus was gone. The only thing I could hear was the blood rushing in my ears. I stood there for what felt like forever, just listening. Nothing. I took one slow step, and there it was again. Another step, right behind me, perfectly mimicking mine. He hadn't left. He'd waited for me to pass him. He'd let me think I was safe. The debate in my head was over. This was not my imagination. This was real. Panic started to rise in my throat. My mind was racing, trying to remember all those safety tips you hear. Don't show fear. Get your phone out. Have your keys ready. I pulled my phone out of my pocket, my thumb hovering over the call button for my mom. I didn't want him to know he had me scared. A strange thought to have when you're terrified, but I wanted to feel like I had some kind of control. I started walking again, much faster this time. The footsteps behind me immediately matched my pace. Fast, deliberate. They stayed about 20 feet back, a constant, terrifying presence. I didn't look back again. I was too afraid of what I'd see. The shortcut was almost over. I could see the bright, welcoming lights of the residence quad just up ahead. It looked a million miles away. I had a choice. My dorm was on the other side of the quad. I could take the longer, well-lit path around, or I could cut straight across the dark, open lawn. The lawn was faster, a direct line to the door, but it was also completely exposed. The footsteps were getting closer now. I could feel his eyes on my back. All the normal worries of my life classes, my future, they all just disappeared. My entire world was this path and the sound of his steps. I made my choice. I ran. The second I started sprinting, so did he. The quiet steps turned into heavy, pounding footfalls. He was chasing me. There was no more doubt, no more trying to explain it away. This was a chase. Adrenaline hit me like a lightning bolt. My backpack felt like it was full of rocks, and my lungs burned from the cold air. I didn't scream. I couldn't. All my energy was focused on running. I ran across the dark grass, the lights of my dorm getting closer, but it felt like it was all happening in slow motion. I made the mistake of looking over my shoulder. He had closed the distance. He wasn't just a shadow anymore. I could see he was a tall man in dark clothes, and he was running with a scary kind of purpose. He was trying to catch me. My dorm building was just around the corner. The main entrance was on the side. My legs felt like they were made of stone, but I could hear his breathing now, heavy and close behind me, and it pushed me forward. I turned the corner and saw the door. The keycard scanner had a little green light on it, and it was the most beautiful thing I had ever seen. I fumbled in my pocket for my ID, my fingers shaking and useless. The plastic card felt slippery in my hand. His footsteps slapped the concrete, louder and louder. He was right on top of me. I slammed my card against the scanner. The light flashed green, and I heard the lock click open. I threw my body against the heavy door, stumbled inside, and spun around to pull it shut behind me. Just as the door latched, his shadow fell over the glass. A hand hit the door, right where my head had been a second before. I saw a blur of his face through the reinforced window, and then I threw my whole body against the door, as if that would make me safer. I leaned against the door, gasping for air, my heart hammering against my ribs. I just stood there, waiting for him to start banging on the door, to yell, to do anything. But there was nothing, just silence. The sudden quiet was almost as scary as the chase had been. It was just completely still. After a minute that felt like an hour, my legs gave out and I slid down to the floor, shaking. Slowly, I crawled over to the small window next to the door and peeked out, fully expecting to see him standing there. But there was no one. The sidewalk was empty. The lawn was empty. He was just gone. It was as if it had all been a nightmare. But the fire in my lungs and the terror still pumping through my blood told me it was real. I was safe, but I was not okay. I never saw him again. I filed a report with campus security, but with no real description. There was nothing they could do. He became another campus ghost story, a suspicious person, alert that everyone forgets in a week. For a long time after that, I couldn't walk alone at night. Every shadow looked like a person. Every footstep sent my heart into a panic. My campus, my home, wasn't safe anymore. It was a map of my own fear. That night took away my sense of security. It taught me that safety is mostly a feeling, something we tell ourselves, so the world doesn't seem so random and scary. That the place you feel the most secure can also be the place where you're the most vulnerable. It's a terrifying thing to learn. What about you? Have you ever had an experience that changed the way you saw a familiar place? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single one. And if you want to hear more stories like this one, be sure to subscribe. Stay safe out there.